G'day, g'day, g'day. It's Mathematical KM, not a title, it's initials, Keith Malumbi. And it's round one of the ANU tournament. There's going to be six 60-minute plus 30-second games over this weekend. And we're going to get 6 hippos. And wonderful opening, except it only worked for the first 38 moves. Oh. Solomon, did you mention something about an endgame course? I need it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at how... And it was an interesting challenge for the hippo. So let's see how we went. And hasn't got the standard, but 1644, my opponent, to 1453. So an uphill game, but you wouldn't have thought so. Go the hippo. He's taking the centre, fianchetto. Memory marker, when the bishop comes out here, you've got to put that one out. We do so. He brings out a knight, next pawn in the middle. Bring the knights into the middle, okay. Obviously we've got to do something there. Bring the knight. It's great, isn't it? Kind of obvious not to lose your queen. How's that great? But okay. And let's put that across on telling us the 3 best moves. He castles kingside. Let's invite that bishop to put up or shut up. And it backs up and keeps my knight pinned to the queen. Okay. Let's prophylaxis over here. I think that was actually in the list of the 3 best moves there. Second or maybe even the best move. There you go. He throws his Ari, not Harry, but Ari pawn down. And that's the standard response. He develops his queen, joins his rooks. Fianchetto the second bishop. Okay, stop. We have the full thick-skinned hippo. What are we looking at and what should we be doing? Potentially castling kingside, but on the other hand, g5 is a move that may be being played, and getting the king over there might not be in our best interest. The b pawn forward doesn't really work because of his a pawn. So it's not going to gain that tempo on that bishop. Potentially, we certainly don't want to... Imagine the d pawn wasn't there. We've got that battery aiming down. We don't want that. This pawn is only protected by that knight. And we've got our bishop. So potentially a knight move here, but his bishop could, it's all a bit interesting. So I decided, let's make that bishop move. It's only 0.2 to white at the minute, and it's standard about 0.7 because of the space at about this point in time. He moves it back. And that's 3 knight moves, the top 3 choices. Knight g6, which is the almost traditional, bringing the knight in behind the advanced pawn as part of a hippo attack. That's just generically good. It's plus 0.2. Plus 0.26 to white's only slightly worse is knight to f6, which gives us a second piece on that pawn. And I would have thought that might attract that move. And then I was thinking I can still, if he brings that forward, I can still move the knight to there, because he's not going to do anything with that pawn, because this knight is threatening his queen. He could take it, and then I'd end up with a bishop in a pretty good place. So how does he react to, we go the knight there, threatening the e-pawn. He surprised me, he pushed the f-pawn. Well, I certainly don't want to open that up, and the top move by a long way is e5 and played. Okay. Surprise! Had the end game gone the way it should have, I probably would have titled this video with a hippo on a castle wall pushing away one of those siege engine ladders, because in comes that white knight as a sack, and the computer doesn't believe it. H times g5 is played, but I certainly need, and queen times g5, which is played, was second best. It's a little bit of a tangle, the black pieces. It's got to be sorted out here. The queen is currently threatening the bishop, which is not protected by anything. It's threatening the knight, which is protected by the bishop. And the rook isn't doing anything. Now, it's a lovely looking move that the computer's found, is knight to g6, which settles everything down beautifully because the queen can no longer get to the bishop. This knight's protected by the bishop, and the knight that's here is protected by the pawn, and the rook's still covering all this space, and the queen's in a bit of a dodgy circumstance, and with potential, tricks and things. A much simpler king to f8 is the third best to protect the bishop, which is the weak link at the moment. And knight h5, which I thought about but chose not to play. Then the knight protects the bishop and the rook protects the knight, and it's all a bit, you think it could get broken, but that was the second best. And I must have gone for, let's hope it's only fourth best. It was simpler, but we dropped a point. It's still 2.6 to black, but just protecting the bishop with the rook, and potential of moving the bishop back and threatening the queen. Not the world's worst move, but it didn't quite maintain that slightly over 3. So he slams that pawn down. He's sacked a piece. He needs to get more pieces in, and in at my king, and in at my king before our castle. So this is and was a challenge to the hippo, and notwithstanding the result of the game, I think the hippo withstands this very, very well. So what I've done here is move the queen up. 2 reasons. It only dropped to 0.7. What was best from here is bishop to h8, making a threat immediately. I talked about that the rook's protected by the knights, and it would be threatening the queen immediately. The queen can't go here. It could go there. So it doesn't trap the queen, but it's would be giving white something to think about. Taking would have maintained a lot of the pressure. And knight to d7, moving this one back. I guess that's threatening for a knight move here to have the queen on the queen. But I was thinking to defuse the situation, to get the queen there and give his queen little choice but to swap off, thinking I'm a piece up and trade should be good. So I've started that plan, and it's only like -1 or thereabouts. His best move is f takes e5, which he plays. Computer still likes bishop h8 to threaten his queen with the rook. Second best was my plan, queen to g4. So I'm putting my little plan into action. It's interesting how good queen times g7 is. It's only minus 0.8. He takes there, I take back. He must get a bit of compensation. But, and his very best move is getting his queen out of dodge back here. And his third best is taking the queen even further out of dodge. But not wanting to go backwards, so I guess it's a fairly human move. He takes. I take back. So now the material's actually even, but I've got it in the form of a knight and a queen, and he's got 3 pawns and a queen. So later we will see the battle of massed pawns versus a minor piece. He wants to double his rooks on my f-pawn. My f-pawn's my weakest pawn by a lot. The top move here is knight times e5, played. Not only does it put another defender on my f-pawn, it's threatening his rook. And I was thinking the odds are he's going to take. I'll take back. That further develops my g knight. And it's the more pieces, equal trades that come off, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And he plays. And I play. So we're at about minus 3.5 here. Rook d to f1, double the rooks. He plays it. The computer would like rook to g7, giving me the 2 defenders being the king and the pawn. Or bishop to c8, bringing that one. That's just giving up that pawn but getting ready to bring that bishop. Or rook to f8, getting the second defender with it directly in line. Strangely enough, and we'll see how bad it is, 3.63 is the how good that move is. I thought, what about if I go here, and if he wants to take it, he's going to have to go down the exchange. And that gives me a chance to try and get some more pieces behind it, and it's doing something with my bishop. So let's see. And it was minus 3.4, so it was also not a bad idea. In the same ballpark as those top 3 moves. So he plays a pawn move over there. I mean, yes, pawns are important, but it will save that pawn from my bishop if that knight moves, and that knight is going to move soon. But it does give me a tempo to do something, and something I've been wanting to do for a while. Was that even in the list of best moves? Let's hope so. Well, we were 3.7. Let's see what it drops to with castling to get my other rook activated. 3.5. So, you know, again, a reasonable move. That's one thing with the Hippo. Often there's a fair number of moves that are good and not that different from each other. Okay, so I've castled. He prepped, not letting me take that pawn with a in and out by shifting it forward. Now he's moved his knight. But that's, I've castled, and now I can get a second defender, either one of those rooks or even this rook to there, but that would stop the other one. And if I move this one, then that knight's got a chance of coming in to be a protector as well. But I threw in a little bit of a side, no side quest, but it's a one move, grab a pawn with a check. Could be an interesting idea, and he probably needs to stop me from doing that. He stops me from doing that. Now it's this next move. So far trades have been good, but knight d to g8 to g8, interesting. Lining up on his king. King to b8. Moving it away. Or bishop to d4. Which is throwing in a check. They're all still 3.5. Maybe the reason my next move isn't super good is it reignites his... because currently his battery isn't a battery. But did the trade, keep it simple sort of thing. And, you know, black's still better, but only 1.6. He takes. I throw the knight down. Now if he takes it, he'll have to go down the exchange again. So 1.3, we're still up, but not by as much. He's bringing his bishop round. Interesting that a5 is a good move. That would be forcing him to stay on the light squares, and I've got a light bishop. I can see that. Rook to e8, putting a threat on this one. If he takes me, I can take him. And king d7, activating that king, getting the king in. Not that the king can get forward. But what I have played is I've now got two defenders on my f pawn. And not that bad. It's staying at, 1.3 in my favour. He checks me. The king's got to go to d or b. Interesting that d is half a pawn better. I guess it's king toward the centre in the end game. But I've moved off to protect my pawns. He's brought that in there. Now, the bishop can't go here. I kind of want it to go there in a way. And if I'm here, I can force another trade. And bishop to c8 is -2. But I'm thinking about that, but I thought before I do it, let's just get two rooks protecting that pawn, almost encouraging that. Because if I take, he then gets the pawn and one pair of rooks comes off. Not the best idea because we've dropped back to only 0.2 up. What I should have done was that bishop to c8 now, or rook to e8 threatening the bishop. Oh, not to worry, we have gone with this plan. He's just moved a pawn. And bishop to c8 now is -2.25 and played. His best move is, well, one of his best moves is taking the knight with the bishop. Bishop to f5. Which would, no, sorry. I would almost certainly take it. And that's part of that line. I guess it lets him get a pawn there, if that helps. But he plays the second best taking. I take back. He takes, I take, he takes. Where does it all land? Plus 2.3 or 2 to black. I've got a light bishop. His pawns are immensely on, all but one of his pawns are on the light squares. That's one advantage to the bishop. It would have been worse if it was a dark one. But we're seeing, what have I got? 4 pawns versus 7 pawns. So we're really testing 3 pawns for the piece. Computer's saying 2.2 to black. Oh, and I believe that was one of the best, bishop to g4 best move. Trying to get the bishop behind these pawns. He moves the pawn forward. And strangely, at this point, and now that I look at it, bishop to h3 is not a bad choice because that pawn is pinned. That would force the rook back. A whole different battle. I was ignoring these pawns for a while and hoping to do what damage I could here with the minor piece, and hopefully end up with some pawns myself to him having none. But anyway, a5, forcing his pawn to stay on the light square, is the top move. Probably should have played that, given the idea of what I was hoping for. h3 we talked about, and bishop to e2, coming in on this one. Anyway, we went one step further to line up on that pawn, on the A pawn. And it's still relatively good, 1.7. Okay, he advances the E pawn. My best move is D times. Played. And we're up plus 3.2 to black now. He plays C5. My best move is B times C5. Played. Solomon, I do need that endgame course. He takes. Okay, my best move is A5 here. Bishop to... Yeah, that's kind of cool, bishop to B3. Threatens both. Rook to D8. Makes sense, threatening that one. And they're all more than plus 3. Still more than plus 3, but I took that pawn. I've now got 3 to his 2, but I know that he's going to... It's going to be 2 on 2 in the middle there. He takes. Bishop to B3 is best, threatening this one if it comes forward. If it comes forward, I'll have the chance to say, Solomon, help me out. Teach me the art of the end game. Because this... One thing to notice. They're on the same. Check. Wins bishop. Terrible move. Believe it or not, it's still slightly to black. Bishop to b6 check is not the best move. It wins the bishop. Rook takes b6 is even better. Interesting. But that's kind of simple. And you'd think kind of drawish. And this is where the brain fade, second brain fade, letting the bishop and the king get done by the rook wasn't good. But I was pretty sure if you put your hand over HGFE, that doesn't exist. If the rooks come off, I can get my C pawn all the way to the end with my king and what little I know of endgames. Got to remember he's got a H pawn, well, and a G pawn, but even the H pawn. And I might be at the 5th rank, but pawns also get to take a double step at the start. It's not quite as good as I thought, and I thoroughly miscalculated about can I get my king back in time to help this pawn to get all the way to the end. I'm pretty sure yes, if he doesn't just do a really simple plan of winning the race with his H pawn. Because not only have I got to move the pawn, I've got to get the king far enough to help protect the pawn from his king. It's just a losing move. So the chess giant is bringing out a comprehensive endings course, which I will be getting my hands on so that I do not do this. Oh, not quite. This. Look at that. Plus 10 to white. How quickly it can slip. How quickly. It's just a nightmare. Maybe if my two pawns had been slightly further apart, with the two of them, I might have been able to force one through, but no, the king was able to pick them both off. And, yeah, shook my opponent's hand at that point in time. Have a quick look at the review. Let's look at the first. You always get the flat 10 moves to get into the hippo. But it worked quite well, and I guess I got through the middle game quite well. Now I need to fix my end game. 81 to 73. He played 4 great moves. I had 1 great move. We saw that blunder at the end. 2100, 1750, but this is more enlightening, and this is the promising part of the whole process. 95.2 for his opening accuracy. 95.4. Go the hippo. The middle game. 71.7. Dubious sack of the knight. And 75. So it was complicated, so it dropped a bit, but again, I navigated the middle game better than my opponent. 86-60. Yeah. Give me that endgame course. But a promising hippopotamus against a stronger opponent, and boy did we have chances. Just drop the ball in a winning endgame. So I was going to say can't get much better than that, but you can. You can win the winning endgame. Anyway, bye for now. There's only 5 more games this weekend.